Hey guys, it's Danny. Welcome back. It is Saturday evening. It is October 19th, about 6 p.m. I was going to upload yesterday. I had a crazy day yesterday. I had some car issues, which we'll get into later, kind of at the end of the video, to tie into some of the other things we've talked about the last few weeks. But today, I want to talk to you guys about something that I feel is really important. Something that has been really kind of, it's been laid on my heart to talk about. Okay? I want you to hear me out, please. I'm going to make a Diddy video tonight. Before you stop watching and before you say, I've seen enough about Diddy, I've heard enough about Diddy, I don't want to hear any more 1,000 bottles of baby oil, and I don't want to hear about the $50 million bail and all this stuff, all the headlines that have made news. All right, well, I'm with you on that, okay? I'm online a lot throughout the week to do research, not only to basically figure out things to do on here, but also more so for my TikTok channel. I upload things on TikTok. It's very different from my YouTube channel, so I spend a lot of time trying to research things, and also I do a lot of research for my X page, or my Twitter page, if you will. So I spend a lot of time online, and I am so sick of all the Diddy headlines and all the things I've heard 1,000 times before, and how he doesn't like the food, and just all the things. Just the story about J-Lo in the club and the shooting and the whole, Pac and Biggie and all that stuff. It's getting to the point. It's like, okay, give us something real, give us the next step. But I'm sick of this regurgitation constantly about Diddy stuff. So this is not that video at all. So please hear me out, guys. This is something that I hope will be way more helpful to some people. And to a lot of people, hopefully, and will really spread some awareness, not with the specific situation of Diddy, but the situation surrounding everything that he has allegedly been involved in. So, do I think that Diddy's a bad guy? I'm sweating like a pig, I'm so sorry. Do I think Diddy's a bad guy? Yes, of course I think Diddy's a bad guy. Do I think he's done some awful, heinous things? Yes, I do. But you have to understand something. There are Diddys all over the world, everywhere. And I mean everywhere. They're in your backyard, they're in my backyard, they're in everybody's backyard. There are Diddys everywhere. But more so in moneyed circles. Circles with a lot of money. There are Diddys everywhere when you get to a point of multiple cars, mansions, yachts, multiple businesses, entertainment industry, all that stuff. There are Diddys everywhere. So I just want to share a couple of experiences that happened with me. And I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory. I'm going to try to move this along as quickly as possible. I don't want to bore you guys, but this is really important information. This is not a joke. None of this stuff is satire, or I'm just making it because I want to ride the Diddy wave. It just came to me and I said, man, I got to put this out there because people need to realize that this whole thing with rich people partying, it's not all rich people, and I understand that, but it's more prevalent in moneyed communities. This thing of rich people partying, they lose the thrill from what they're doing, so they have to take it to the next step, and they lose the thrill from that, so they have to go to the next step, and the next step, and the next step, and the next step, and that's why in the Diddy situation, not to keep going on that, but in that situation, most of the people, they're saying that the defense is going to say that this was all consensual, that that the sex was consensual, and the drugs and the drinking and the, even the coercion, that was all just, it was part of the whole, it was kind of like cheering people on, not like you have to do it type of thing. And even the Cassie video, I'll get into that later on. I have my own kind of Cassie video situation that I went through. So just be patient, and I'll get to some of these things. So give you just a hair of a background, just a little bit. I live in Boston now. I grew up in New England. I grew up about, it's a couple hours away from here. I'm not going to get into specifics, but I grew up in a very, very rural area. There's these huge rolling hills, almost like small mountains, and they go up to the top of a really, really huge high elevation point. And there's a lot of people that build homes into the side of these big hills, overlooking different things. Like, I used to be able to go on the back deck of my house as a kid and see Providence. I would see the lights of Providence, Rhode Island, and the city and the whole outline and everything. It was probably, 60, 70 miles away, but I could see from our house, from our deck in the back on the top level, I could see the lights of Providence and clearly make it out that was the city. So a lot of people build their houses into the side of these tall hills. And to give you an idea of some of the people that lived in the area, Renee Zellweger had a house down the street from us for a while. John Travolta had a place not that far away. Billy Joel had a place not that far away. Ricky Lake lived like about 15 minutes away by car, maybe. On our street alone, it was a lot of tech people, a lot of Silicon Valley people that had said, hey, I want to go out in the middle of nowhere, and I want to go to the East Coast and just get out of California and whatever. So there was a lot of those types. My best friend's parents were hotel magnates. They owned hotels on South Beach in Florida, and I think all over the country. They had quite a few. Anyways, one of our neighbors had a helipad and a helicopter, and I don't even know if he knew how to fly, but he had that. So it wasn't for work. It wasn't like, he flew the police helicopter and he kept it at his house and that's how it came to be. This was strictly a luxury item. Trying to think of who else. There was a lot of celebrities, a lot of people from either Hollywood background or politics. That was the other thing. There was politicians around us. I was on multiple politicians' yachts, in their mansions to celebrate wins and to kind of mourn losses at certain times. And this was when I grew up. Now, I was a young kid. There were a lot of things that I saw and was around that I never should have been, okay? But it was never discouraged. It's like if it's a really nice house, or if it's a mansion and they have a gatehouse and a fancy gate and all these walls and everything, then it's okay for kids to act like adults. And this is where it gets kind of really crazy is, one of the politicians' houses that I was in a lot as a young kid, in a basement room down below, it was set up like a movie theater, just like you see in any big house now today. They have the private movie theaters. It was set up like that, and it had a bar, and it had couches and lounge chairs, and it was, now knowing what I know what it was set up for. I'm not stupid, but at the time I didn't put all these clues together. I was a young kid. I think at the time I was in that house, I was maybe like 12 or 13. And I remember going over to a button on the wall, pressing the button, and these big shades rose up. These like solid shades rose up, and on both sides of the wall, covering a huge portion of the room, were these big murals, and both murals were of an orgy. It was people in a pool, and it was in all sorts of very graphic sexual positions and scenarios and situations. It was wild. It was absolutely wild. Definitely shouldn't have even seen anything like that as a kid. They knew that I knew about it, I guess because I had left the shades up and they came down, so they knew I'd seen it. They thought it was funny. It was a joke. Anyway, so this is kind of, I've been in a few different scenarios like that as a kid. All these big fancy houses. It's like, as long as there's enough money and fancy cars and fancy lights around it, then it's okay for a kid to do adult things, including drink alcohol, get into sexual situations, you name it, drugs, the whole thing. It's fine. It's just can't do it in a regular house or a trailer or something like that. You gotta, if you do it in this scenario, then that's perfectly normal. So that was one scenario. When I was even younger, to reverse a few years back, again, I live in this area where there's a lot of really opulent homes. I was the poor kid of the neighborhood, and we had a beautiful house. We always, I never wanted for anything as a kid. I had a really good childhood growing up, but I was the poor kid in the area for sure, and I was even shunned at times for that. And maybe the fact that I was shunned wasn't such a bad thing, because I don't know as I'd want to be one of the favorite kids in these circle of people. So I remember very clearly when I was about 8 years old, we were coming home from church one day, and we went to pull in the driveway, and there was a lot of space between the properties. Nobody had a small yard or anything. These properties are huge. So, but they're adjacent properties, and so as we slow down to get ready to turn down our drive, we see a moving truck, and these people are standing outside the moving truck, and they just look absolutely wild, like nothing I had ever seen for sure. And even my parents were a little like, what the hell is going on? So it was this guy, and he had like tattoos all over the place, and he had long dark hair, and he had like all these like skull earrings hanging down, and he had a ring on every finger, and they were huge like silver rings, and they had all these symbols and like occultic things and pentagrams all over them. And they were all dressed in black, and she had long, dark black hair. It was like a big bouffant up front, and then it was down to her ass in the back. And I think it was a real hair, I'm not sure. But then she had this huge white stripe going all the way down. It was like really big and thick like that. And my parents always joked that she looked like a skunk. So that was our first, and again, they were all dressed in black, dark glasses, like the whole thing. Like the cars in the driveway, they looked like classic mafia cars. They were all like Cadillacs and Lincolns with tinted out windows and stuff like that. So they move in. A lot of crazy things happen with them. They're nice people. They are really, really genuinely like nice to talk to, very respectful, very, they definitely don't match the aesthetic. You can tell these people have money. Come to find out, she was a very famous artist. I'm not going to say her name only because I don't want to be tied to this story by name, and I don't want, I can't mention names. But she's a very famous artist from New York City, and she moved to the country to get away from everything and just kind of like be out in the middle of nowhere. Well, that's great, but They became known to us as like the biggest party animals that I've ever seen. And I'm saying this with hindsight being 2020, looking back. I was just a kid, and I don't know how I was allowed to be in these scenarios. I'm sure I probably, I don't know. I'm not even gonna go into why I was allowed to be there, but I was allowed to be in some really crazy scenarios. And my parents let me go over there as well. And there were normal things that happened over there, okay? One was she bought me a really expensive paint set, and she taught me how to paint. She showed me how to make the frame and stretch the canvas onto the frame, and how to do the tacking, and just how to treat the canvas and how to prep the canvas, and it was absolutely crazy. She taught me so many great things, and it was all really normal. There was nothing creepy or weird that I can think of that I remember going on when that stuff was going on. However, so I had basically, to give you an idea, my parents and them had talked enough that they really were kind of impressed when they found out who she was and what the deal was, and they kind of ignored the aesthetic, even though, like, today it wouldn't be a huge deal if somebody showed up and their hair was dyed weird, and they had tattoos and all this skull jewelry hanging, and like silver rings on everything. Like, they both were just covered in like weird occultic symbols and stuff, and it wouldn't be so weird today. But back then, being where we were in the country, and we were in a very snobby area. Again, like I said, I was shunned a lot as a kid in this area for being like the poor kid. So they turned out to be these huge party animals. And they would have people come from New York City. They would have people come from Hartford, Connecticut, from Providence, Rhode Island, from Boston, everywhere you can think of. They would have these people come, and they would have these huge parties where both their driveways would be full up with cars, and then it'd be all the way up, down, up one side of the street, down the other, full of cars, both directions, and it would be all these people, and they had kind of the same aesthetic. They were all really colorful people, colorful like with their hair and stuff, and then all black clothes, and just to us it was very odd to us at the time. So me as a young kid, I'd been around these people so much. They were normal. They were just my neighbors. I was a kid. I didn't have any reason to worry about anything going on. And I can tell you that coming and going through there, I saw a lot of crazy things. I saw there was definitely a lot of drugs. There was a lot of sex. There was a lot of orgies that went on in that house. I saw some of it with my own eyes. I used to play with some of the kids that would come with their parents to these parties, and they had a huge pool in the yard. Everybody in my house had pools and in my street had pools and tennis courts and all kinds of indoor basketball courts. But they had a big, huge pool area with a big fence that surrounded everything. So people used to, be naked and topless and whatever. And as kids, we used to play in the pool, and they'd be partying, drinking, doing drugs. There'd be people in different parts of the house having sex. And, at times, I'd be playing with these kids, and the parents would come and call the kids and say, "You have to go in the house now." And they would go in the house, and I saw them go into rooms with multiple adults that were either naked or half naked, and the door would close. Now, I never went into those rooms while anything was going on, so I never saw what happened. But if there's naked adults and kids get called into a room and they're in there for a long time and the door's closed, there's nothing good going on in that room. There's nothing that could possibly be good going on in that room. And I did see some things. I didn't see inside those rooms when that was going on, but I did see some things, and those people are long gone. I think the people that bought the house, the husband and wife that bought the house, I don't think they're still alive today. I think they've been deceased for quite a few years, but definitely there was drugs, coercion, rape, orgies, kids. I saw tables and tables full of drugs. They were definitely into, semi-wholesale drug. I'm sure the people that came from New York with all the blacked out limos and stuff, I'm sure that was, people from the drug world looking back. And I saw tables and tables and tables full of bags of drugs, and they'd be weighing them out, and large quantities. I'm not talking about what you see at a friend's party, or, I'm not talking about a little bag. I'm talking about huge quantities and hundreds of bags laid out of all different things. So, I say all this to say, and I have so much more. If you guys want me to do a part 2, or if you want me to keep going, I have so much more. I don't want to go into this too long. It's kind of a negative subject, and I don't want to dwell on it for a long time. But if you guys want to hear more, or if you want me to explain anything, if I wasn't clear about anything, or if anything I said doesn't add up or doesn't make sense, please ask me. It's my childhood. Like, it's my memory. So all I have to do is think back, and I can remember what it is. It's not a story that I'm trying to remember, or it's written down somewhere and I can just refer to it. But, my memories are there. They're never going to go anywhere. I say all this to make my point that there are Diddys all over the world. And I'll get into one quick story very quickly. I'm only going to touch on it. If you guys want to know the whole story, I'll gladly tell you and upload that. But I'm only going to touch on it real quick. So there are Diddys everywhere in the world. Okay? They're all over the place. It's very prevalent. Stuff that maybe even worse than stuff that he was doing. Although it sounds like now that things are coming out regarding him, even doing things like sending people on shore when he's on his yacht of some island to go get a goat, and they bring it back and he chops the head off and does rituals with the blood and stuff. That's coming out now. So the guy that was supposedly one of Diddy's sex slaves that nobody believed because they said he was crazy, it's coming out that he was saying that Diddy was in the boule, the black, it's like a basically like a voodoo cult type of thing, for like black witchcraft or something. And it's coming out that he was into a lot of like rituals and weird stuff, and burning sage and crystals and all kinds of things that can get into some very dark areas. And anyway, so my last thing, I'll leave you real quick. Another type of Diddy person that came into my life. This guy he was my first landlord. He was my second employer, I think. And he owned basically the entire downtown of the nearest like little city that we had, a little ways away from us. He owned most of the commercial buildings in downtown of that city. And so he was the landlord to all it was like a really fancy area. It was the fanciest area, like the most boutique, like high-end area around us, and they had antique shops, they had restaurants, and the restaurants weren't like normal restaurants. They were like, Michelin star restaurants, and he owned all the properties, but he was known as this slumlord, and he really didn't take care of them that well, and he just collected the rent, and he was always in the news and in the papers for some kind of scandal going on. But so his deal was, he was on the down low, he was gay, but he tried to live his life as like just a normal straight guy that had girlfriends. He actually tried to live like he was a ladies' man, and he was totally gay, and he would often drug people. This guy was really wealthy too. He had a collection of cars, warehouses full of cars, Rolls Royces, Bentleys, old Jaguars, Mercedes, unbelievable collection of cars. This guy would drug people. He drugged me before. He would try to get any straight guy that he wanted to try to get a piece of. He would, because that was his thing. He liked to turn straight guys. So any straight guy that he thought he could get a piece of, which was me for a long time, he would get me to drink a lot, way more than I could handle. And then he would tell me that there was, I remember on one occasion, I'll get to the end of this. I'm sorry, guys, I'm being long-winded, but I'll get to the end of this. So there's one time we go to a bar, we meet, we're having lunch. This is not to drink, okay? But we met at a bar, we're having a drink, we're having lunch. Every time I went to the bathroom, he would order another drink for me. And I noticed he wasn't drinking his drink after like 2 or 3 drinks, and I'm starting to get tipsy, and I don't want to. I had a Porsche at the time. I was so lucky to have, and it was something that I had gotten a really good deal on. So I had this Porsche. It was like my pride and joy, and I paid for it myself. Nobody helped me buy it, and so I didn't want to. I never drove that car in the rain, let alone would go out and drive drunk or anything like that. I was so careful with that car. So when I kept coming back to the table, and I'm only 18 years old, I'm not even of drinking age, I'd come back to the table and he'd have another drink for me. And I'd get up and I have to go to the bathroom, he'd have another drink. And I still was kind of like a little bit starstruck with this guy at this time. I had been to multiple of his mansions. I had seen all the different warehouses that he had full of just high-end luxury goods and cars and just architecture and all kinds of things. And so I got so blitzed, and he was saying to me, "Oh, you gotta come, my the house we were just at, and it's a gorgeous house. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the most amazing mansions I've ever been in." And he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go there, and there's gonna be all these women, and oh, I just called, these girls," and he would name off a bunch of women that he knew that I liked, and he's like, "Oh, they're gonna be there, and all these other people." He's like, "You gotta come," and I knew it was all bullshit. I had seen enough, I had heard enough, I'd been around this guy enough. I knew it was all bullshit, and I was so frustrated, I was so drunk, I didn't know what I was gonna do. I couldn't drive my car, but I wanted to get away from him because things were just getting really heavy and tense and dangerous, and I was scared for my life. I got up from the table, I walked out to the foyer, and I should have just walked out to my car and left, but I waited in the foyer and waited for him to settle the bill. I had left money on the table for my part, and he was going to settle the rest. I waited for him to do that, and when he came into the foyer, he just freaked out completely and attacked me and started punching me, hitting me, kicking me. I was on the ground. He picked me up. He threw me into a wall, which is a brick wall, and it had all these metal spikes sticking out because they hung like old bric-a-brac, like old blacksmith stuff. You know what I mean? Like a yoke from a cow and whatever. They hung this stuff off of it, but there was some empty spikes on the wall where nothing was hung at the moment, and he threw me into those. So I had holes in my back. I was all beat up. I was bruised head to toe, and somebody came out and they, made a commotion and like, hey dude, what's going on? And I ended up stumbling to my car. I'm not proud to say it, but I did drive away from there. I made it to a safe place. Wow, I didn't think that was good. Sorry, I didn't think that was going to choke me up. So yeah, I got out of there. But again, to bring it around full circle, I know this video is getting really long, but there are Diddys everywhere. Everywhere. This guy is a fall guy. Yes, he's probably done some horrible, heinous stuff, but way worse than anything that they're talking about him doing goes on all over the place every single day, in every community, in every area, every socioeconomic level. This stuff goes on. It's rampant. So I just want you guys to understand that the problem is way bigger than Diddy. Don't get wrapped up in all the hype. So much of what they're trying to sensationalize is about him being with men, which, whether you agree with that lifestyle or not, it doesn't matter. It's, why are they trying to hype that up? It's not illegal at this point. So why are they making that the focus of it? So, I urge you guys to please just not get too wrapped up in the sensational stuff, and really keep your eyes and your ears open. Make sure that you are responsible with your kids, and that you just try to protect them in the best way possible. Make sure that you're present. I think that's the biggest thing. I got into the worst times when I was alone. I wasn't around anybody. I was with one person alone. Try to make sure that your kids are never with anyone alone. Male, female. Wow, I'm sorry guys, I'm a little choked up right now. Male, female, anybody like that. Make sure that, your kids are never alone with anybody. I guess that's my takeaway from this, because, a lot of the people, the defense's argument that a lot of this was consensual, I'm sure that's true. But that doesn't make it any less diabolical at all. And that doesn't make the pain and suffering that these kids and these women and these guys, quite frankly, went through throughout all this mess. And the fact that Diddy and his relationship with Justin Bieber and things that went on there, and with Usher and things that went on there, the fact how closely it mirrors what I saw going on and what I dealt with this guy that beat the crap out of me when I wouldn't go home to a party that was never there, and he just wanted to take me home and use me for his personal pleasure. So guys, if you made it to the end, thank you so much. This was a kind of a dark episode, but if you appreciate anything that I brought to the surface, I've never told anybody this stuff. I haven't even told my family. I haven't told my closest friends. I've told nobody about some of the experiences that I went through. So I kind of felt it was time to, now that some of these people are not here anymore, or if they're here, they're not in a position where they can really hurt me anymore. So I've come forward to kind of bring awareness to how bad things really are, and how much we need to be looking for this stuff and just aware of it. Guys, that's my time. I'm Dani. Peace. Just kidding. check out my TikTok at Team 696 on TikTok. I have some Diddy videos on there. I have some videos about Hurricane Helene, some other stuff that I kind of post every couple of days over there usually. So check that out if you have a chance. On Twitter or X, I'm at Team 696. Same thing. We are on Team 696. We have merch on TikTok as well. We have a TikTok shop. I always say, please don't buy anything. Don't give me a dime. Send me a dime. Don't do any monetary support. If you guys are struggling or don't have extra disposable cash, I'm here to help people get through difficult times financially and otherwise, not be part of the problem. So, guys, I love you. Take care. Have a great night. Peace.